Hello guys, once again it's Matt and today we have another video guys. Thank you all the members, all the patrons, make sure to subscribe and let's get into it. So, we just had some interesting information. Actually it was yesterday. I was actually planning to do this video yesterday, but there was so much stuff to do. Well, I'm doing it today, okay? Kinda the last day of the dev server, obviously it ends tomorrow, but very early in the morning. So kinda the last day that we will have the dev server. Don't worry, normally they open again if there is anything that they need to work on. So if we don't see a dev server opening again during the weekend or on Thursday maybe, or even tomorrow or Friday, expect the patch to come next week. But I would probably imagine that we would see just kind of a half a week of just fixing bugs and everything like that. Maybe another dev server or something like that could happen, so that the patch actually drops on maybe the 19th. But I'm pretty sure it's next week. This is my best guess, right? But I really wanted to talk about this thing. Stepanovic, yeah. Is one of the main developers, or at least one of the developers that has contact in the forum. You know, some of the missile developers that actually, one of the missile developers that actually gets, you know, in the forum and answers everybody and stuff like that. He's normally only on certain forum like pages, on missiles and everything like that. But yeah, basically we had this conversation with him answering some comments. So yeah, first of all, somebody said R-73 are better as a dogfight missile. He answered, yes, this is obvious. Yeah, it is obvious. Then the same guy said 9M, the AIM-9M has better flare rejection, and he said no. In real life, the IRCCM technology used in AIM-9M is not such effective as used on the R-73. The IRCCM of the R-73 is competitive with Stinger post. I don't know what he means about that, but one type of Stinger. But the AIM-9M is behind. He probably talks in Russians and everything like that. So, so sorry if I'm just mistranslating or not. I'm not translating, but you know what I mean. Sometimes wording can be different from what I'm talking. Okay, just remember that. AIM-9Ms detect flares, presence, and suspends tracking, while the R-73 can spatially separate targets with great precision. The only competitive missile to the R-73 is the AIM-9X, IRCCM, and some others. And then the other guy said, less smoky motor, but I agree with the AIM-9M, right? Then he answered, this is the only advantage of the AIM-9M over the R-73. So, some things that I have to talk about it here. First things first, no, this isn't a confirmation that the AIM-9X and IRCCM are coming, okay? But it is an interesting consideration that the R-73 is such a good missile that in the future they might consider such missiles like this, and not in a very distant one, to be honest. They already kind of confirmed apparently that the Python 4 is being thought about to be added to the F-16D of the Israelis, right? So even considering the AIM-9X and IRCCM is in the realm of possibilities, since the R-73 is so good. And I think it's a good option if they really want to go for it, because if it becomes too OP, an AIM-9X, an IRCCM, a Python 4, something like that, if it actually becomes too OP, they can always add the R-73M, right, to actually counter that. So it's much easier to put the best that the NATO have and then counter with what the Russians have, than adding what the Russians have and trying to counter without adding these like late 90s, early 2000s missiles, right? So this is the first thing that I basically he's confirming here, right? Of course, there is one little thing about it. We do have multiple types of AIM-9Ms, many blocks of it. So he might be saying early variants of the AIM-9M instead of the later ones. We don't know yet. Probably it is because they're probably considering the same kind of level of time frame for the same missiles before they even consider adding a better version of it. So for example, they probably would consider adding the AIM-9M first with its first blocks, then after that, seeing that it's not enough, adding the later models with 35Gs, with better IRCCM and other improvements in the guidance system as well, right? So this is probably, he's probably talking about the original AIM-9M, because the AIM-9M-8, 9s and stuff like that, they are from the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, or very late 80s. So I honestly don't know if the IRCCM got really like better or worse than the R-73, but at least at first the R-73 had a better IRCCM, you know. So it's difficult to actually say this because it's a very specific thing that is very hard to find sources on. I'm just like considering that this developer has better sources than I personally do in the internet, in the open internet, right? So I will consider that what he's talking about is true, because I imagine that he has better sources than we, and we might even do a video about this. But that's what I think one of the main problems with War Thunder is right now. They might not have a lot of consultors or advisors or whatever you want to call it for the Western stuff, making it a lot harder for them to actually get information on these type of thing, right? While being more sided to the Russians, because they are a Russian company at their nature, right? They probably have more contact with Russian consultors and advisors to actually have the proper sources for Russian stuff. So it's you know, it's problematic. I don't know if this is the case. It's just my opinion on it. It might be one of the problems that they have when an AIM-9M, for example, takes a lot of time to be added, you know. But anyway, the last thing that I wanted to measure here is obviously, if this is the case, if the R-73 is a better missile at basically everything, and the only advantage that the AIM-9M has over the R-73 is that the visibility to see the missile is a little bit more difficult. What does that mean? What does that mean? Well, it's a very short answer. Where's the AIM-9M? You know, so I have a feeling that they will add the AIM-9M in the live server, or they're just testing it in, like testing internally right now. Maybe they will add for a second dev server, or maybe they will just add for the real live server. I don't know, but I think the AIM-9M is definitely needed, and if they are going to add the R-73, you know, I think they should add the R-73, add the AIM-9M, and as soon as possible add the Fox 3s. I already did a video covering that opinion that I have, but as soon as like they can push through these kind of unbalancing situations of the 80s that certain nations have a lot of things and other nations don't, the sooner they push through that and get to the 90s, I think everything will be more balanced. Everybody started doing very good IR missiles. Everybody started doing making, you know, very, very good Fox 3 missiles. Everybody started making very good radars. Everybody started making very good performance aircraft, you know. So in a general sense, I think we need just to push through this, you know, as quickly as possible, so that the unbalancing problem is solved as quickly as possible. So my opinion on it, they should add the R-73, but they should add later models of the AIM-9M with the 35Gs and a better IRCCM than the original AIM-9M. I don't know how the later models will compare to the IRCCM of the R-73, but still, I think both of them should be added like that. Yes, it will be unbalanced at least a little bit, if you will, but as I said, as soon as we push through this, the sooner we can get to the other side, well, where everybody kind of has a more balanced situation. This would be the most balanced that we can have, just like we had with the AIM-9L and the R-60M, is as balanced as it is possible right now, right? So this would be similar to that. Yes, the R-73 would be better, but at least we are moving forward so that we get to those glory years of the 90s, that everybody kind of has the same level of performance in a general sense. 90s and 2000s, right? So yeah. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you think the R-73 still needs to be added? Do you think the AIM-9M should be added? Or do you think we should just jump for the AIM-9X and IDST? Let me know in the comments, and I see you guys on the next one. Bye guys, see ya.